Hey everybody, Hokius here. Today I want to talk about a game I just finished, even though it's the 8th, 9th, 10th time I've played it. Anyway, Kingdom Hearts Re-Chain of Memories. Yeah, I have played this game a bunch of times before, but this time I streamed it for some friends, fans, and strangers, and it was a pretty different experience from every playthrough that came before, so I wanted to talk about some of the things I noticed and experienced this time. Chain of Memories has long been one of my least favorite Kingdom Hearts games to play. It doesn't have my least favorite story, but I have always found the card mechanics to be frustrating and tedious. After this latest playthrough, I still have some gripes, but I think I have finally begun to see more of what the developers were trying to accomplish with this game style and what makes it appeal to other gamers. I've long argued that people who don't enjoy Final Fantasy XIII because of its gameplay just never actually use the gameplay the way the developers intended. Yes, you can mash the auto attack button and get through much of the game just fine, but if you actually sit there and play with the various tactics and abilities they've made available, it can be a very rich and rewarding combat system. But it turns out I had done the same thing to Chain of Memories that I had accused everyone else of with Final Fantasy XIII. Yeah, I knew the slights, which I managed to mispronounce for the entire stream, go me, existed, but I have the common gamer fear of using items that I can't get back. Sure, yeah, the cards you use in a slight come back at the end of the fight to be used in the next fight, but what if I need them again in this fight? People who love COM realized something I didn't, that you usually don't need them again. Most fights against regular Heartless can be completed in a single reload of your deck if you use the appropriate slights, and for boss fights there were item cards. I had always eschewed those because not only were they once per battle uses, but they also cost ungodly amounts of card points. After finally being convinced to use them, it turns out they're totally worth it. Once I began to use the slights, I began to see the beauty of the combat system. You could perform cinematic, powerful attacks which make you feel like a real badass, and because it's in the form of this slight, you actually get to watch the fruits of your labor after using the cards. In so many games, the really cool attacks are only half seen by the player because you're still mashing the buttons to finish the combo. In COM, you finish the combo before the attack even begins. It makes for some really cool sights. The game still has flaws, of course. I will rail against this system that doesn't automatically reward you with experience after you kill an enemy, but requires you to chase down random colorful shapes while you're busy dodging the attacks of the other half enemies on the board every time I can. And for every incredibly powerful, super fun slight you are rewarded, there are an equal number of nearly useless slights, and slights that you'll probably never get to use all the way through because the card points to deploy them are so low that even the lowliest Shadow Heartless can interrupt you. I've always enjoyed the switch to Riku's gameplay though. It's simple and fast in combat and also doesn't require me to do any of the tedious, if ultimately rewarding, deck building exercises. The duel system is pretty easy to grasp and activate and extremely powerful. The darkness system makes you feel unstoppable. Story-wise, this game is a bit of a mixed bag. It's pitched as the next chapter of Sora's story and then follows that up with the secret mode which tells you about Riku's story, but honestly the game's story has almost nothing to do with Sora even in the first half. Really, the first half of the game tells us Naminé's story. It can't tell us the story of Sora because he forgets it all and doesn't even keep a written record of his exploration, as Jiminy Cricket chooses to write only the confusing "Thank Naminé" in his journal once she stops messing with it. It can't tell us the story of Organization 13 because most of the members we meet in this game are killed and never mentioned again, at least up to this point. Their attempted rebellion and assassination missions go completely unfulfilled and remain meaningless. The only person who remains alive and still remembers the entire experience is Naminé. We see her complex character as she desperately wants to make Sora into the friend and hero she's never had but always needed. We see the abuse she suffers at the hand of the organization members that require her to perform this task, and we see her selfless act of giving up the only people who even know she exists when they say they'd prefer to go back to their old lives. The game makes a mistake in focusing so much on Sora simply because he is the protagonist of the series, which means her story doesn't get very much time. But what she does get is very powerful, and if you've played the game before but never focused on her role in the whole thing, I'd urge you to give it another go, maybe using some of those slights you'd never used before. By far the best part of the game, though, is the secret mode, Reverse/Rebirth, the secret second half of the game which tells the story of Riku's redemption. I've always been a sucker for sequels that redeem the villains into heroes, and if any villain ever deserved it, it was Riku. He was among the most relatable villains ever crafted. He was a teenager who wanted to explore. Then he wanted to save his friends, and he was willing to use the powers of darkness to accomplish it. Then, when he realized his mistake, he used incredible willpower to protect his friends from an enemy too strong for them to face at the time. But the best of Riku's redemption arc in this game is his gradual realization that the darkness inside of him didn't have to be his enemy. He didn't have to banish it in order to be a good person. He just needed to channel it. So his story is not just one of redemption, but also of acceptance. The darkness is a part of Riku, and that's okay as long as he uses it for good. It's really beautiful. Right up to the final cutscene when Diz offers Riku a choice between the path to the light and the path to the darkness, and Riku chooses the middle path. But it doesn't stop there. Diz asks Riku if he really wants to choose the path to twilight, and Riku replies, no! It's the path to dawn. It gives me shivers every time. Riku is probably the most complex, interesting character in the series, and it's great to see him begin to get his due this early on. Hopefully Kairi can get the same kind of depth added to her character in Kingdom Hearts 3. So, yeah, this playthrough changed my mind from a game that is annoying with some fairly interesting character arcs to a game that is really fun to play when you do it right, along with some amazing character arcs. Much like how Sora's power lies in his friends, Kingdom Hearts' strength has always been with its characters. Chain of Memories is no exception in that regard. Thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a beautiful day.